Hello, friends. I, Ankita Datta, project lead for the Mask Stories at www.tellmeyourstory.biz, welcome you to the 13th episode of The Mask Factor. I'm privileged to have with us writer and editor Himanjali Sankar this evening, and we are going to discuss a word, an era, a story, and the significance of them all. Tell Me Your Story calls for submissions of short stories and poems on Mask. Also, registrations are open for the writing program season 2 with the story prompt of Women's Silence, which is yet another form of Mask. So, let me begin the session by introducing Himanjali. Himanjali Sankar is a writer and editor. Her children's and young adult books include The Stupendous Timetelling Dog and Talking of Muskaan, which were shortlisted for the Crossword Book Award. Mrs. C remembers her first novel for adults won her the FICCI Publishing Award for Upcoming Author of the Year in 2018. Himanjali loves the ocean and is a certified scuba diver. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you,
So,
Ankita.
yes, ma'am. So when there is so much positive everywhere, so why not talk about something that is maybe negative from that perspective? So could you please share with us a special experience, maybe a feel good or a heartwarming one that might have revamped your personal perception and interpretation of the recent times?
Yeah, well, I don't know because we've been going through so much change. It's and to think of what is good about humanity at this point is also hard. Because I think even at the best of times, I'm not the sort of person who has great faith in humanity as such. So it's like Oscar Wilde said something like, "It takes a lot of courage to see the world as it is and still love it." Something along those lines. So yeah, I mean, I think we are all brave enough to do that. We do love this world despite everything, but I don't have too much faith in humanity as such. I mean, I love people. I love my friends, family, whatever, the people I know, but humanity as a collective, the people gathering at the Kumbh Mela, for instance, like, just no. But yeah, of course, there's a flip side to it. I'm being a little flippant here. COVID has been a time when we've been looking out for each other. It's in a way that we've not done before, and I think I've been in touch with family and friends more than ever before, and also feeling more connected, more loving, really, because because everyone's in the same boat. We are all trying to make sense of what is happening. So and especially during the last wave the last COVID wave, we saw so many instances of people helping each other, going out of their way, establishing helplines, organizing oxygen cylinders, going to give blood and plasma and all of that. So I think, yeah, it's not all bleak. We can hope. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So there's always this silver lining for every black cloud. Yeah. So let's come to your book, Mrs. C Remembers. Dementia-related writings, they can constitute a different genre altogether in films and literature. Like from The Notebook to Black, we have seen on-screen portrayals of this particular disease time and again. So let alone reading about it in a plethora of similar streamed books. So since it is this common, can I ask you, what was your purpose behind giving Mrs. C such a character transformation through a disease?
um, you know uh, you know how, like, physical and mental well-being, they are both so related, so sort of closely related to each other. So especially a disease like Alzheimer's, which is it's a disease which can completely transform your mental landscape. So it's inevitable that Mrs. C will change in the course of this book when she has a disease like Alzheimer's. And I've also used it as a trope, really, in the novel Alzheimer's, because Alzheimer's also makes us forget who we were at a very obvious basic level. So the crux of it is it is something that all of us do, you know. With or without Alzheimer's, it's something that all of us do, a conscious forgetting to block out something unpleasant in our lives sometimes. So I think I've played with that, the notion that Mrs. C is not always at the mercy of her disease, and yet at the same time she is. So I've kind of sort of used that to create tension in the book so that the reader doesn't always know what Mrs. C actually remembers and what she really forgets. You can't be sure what, I mean, there are points when you don't really know if what is being shown is what it is. So, yeah.
Wow, that's a lovely interpretation, and a lovely motive as well. So the political visage in India has seen the worst and the worst. I mean, there have been numerous instances of rebellions and revolts. So you have talked about both the national parties with respect to the personal circumference and how politics can actually affect citizens. So, is this a particular concern? I mean, what would you want to relate to the masses? Is this to make people aware that they should not mingle the personal with the politics?
Um, I wouldn't quite say that. The book does touch upon politics, but I would say it's also at a fairly superficial level. Political events are talked about, but in a kind of textbookish fashion, so that so these events are there, but they don't really touch upon, or they don't really penetrate the lives of the characters. So and that's how it happens to be in this book. I don't think it's not a message that I was wanting to give about what the relationship between the personal and the political should be. In fact, far from it. But it's just how it is in this book. When it comes to a character like Mrs. C and the social milieu she belongs to, there are certain, like, the politics is there, but it's also divorced from her life in many ways.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much. So, talking about your novel once again, it touches strings, from a tortured daughter in law, an abusive mother in law, and a workaholic son, to a divorcee daughter, an interfaith love, and a live-in relationship. So all of the former aspects, they are an existing part of our culture, while the latter ones, they are struggling to still find a place. So I find it ironic enough because, while the negative can be passed on as societal norms, whatever is imbibed externally only face criticisms. So they say India wants to be the West. So would you still agree with that given the present mindset? I mean, is the society really ready at all levels to accept the Occident? More so its cultural and societal beliefs.
Yeah. What you've said is actually very slightly complicated, but I'm going to answer it quite simply. It's very interesting what you're saying, and I completely agree. And I do feel that we have a tendency to sort of superficially engage with the West, and at the same time to preserve the negative aspects of our own society, its limitations. And I think that's what you're kind of saying. And but what I've done in this book is really shown up a mirror to how I perceive these things are working out in our society. I've shown how the characters react in certain situations, but you have just now explained exactly how it works, probably better than I could. So,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for that. Yes, I mean, I thought that the novel is absolutely about this. I mean, it gives us a question to answer ourselves that whether we are actually ready or not. So, moving on to the next question, we have just discussed the stones that your novel has not left unturned. I mean, a lot of aspects of the Indian society altogether. So, they are tough and they are really heavyweight. So, regarding this, how were your meetings or discussions with the publisher? I mean, what all could you have talked about if you could elaborate further about the publishing journey of the novel?
I think it's been now about 5 years since I submitted the manuscript to the to who was the she was the publisher in Pan Macmillan then, and to Tista, who is still with Pan Macmillan. So, and I would say that, so, I am in publishing too, and I'm also an editor. So possibly the journey I've had is relatively easier than it would be for I mean for every author, because it's just that I know how the industry works. The people, I was at some level working with friends, so the editors were people I knew. So that was a tremendous advantage. So, but of course, I would also say at this point that when you're publishing any, like whether it's fiction or any manuscript, really, it's really about an editor, and this is I'm speaking as an editor and as an author, but it is really about an editor connecting uh, connect, an editor connecting with a book. So there is, after that, you are on the same page, the author and the editor on the same page. But it is this initial connection that forms where you both love the book in a certain way. So I can't really remember the specific details of, I imagine that there would have been points like when they were reading the book as editors, they would have disagreed with certain things. And I'm sure we worked around it and we discussed it and sorted it out. But yeah, that's been my journey primarily. And it's a great thing that, the book is still, it's been so long, and say we are having the session today, or it's received a fair amount of attention in terms of reviews. So yeah, I would say that's been great. The journey's been good.
Yes, ma'am, and it was sweet. So, though Anita and Shohini, they are polar apart, yet more so to me, Anita is like the rock bed to, Shohini's flowing river of life. So we can already deduce the tremendous attachment. But I would like to ask you: has the root of the problem of these omnipresent, differences between a mother and a daughter, are they laid in the generation gap? I mean, or would you state otherwise? I mean, also is the root cause the same with the forever tainted mother-in-law daughter-in-law relationship as well? I mean, both of these relationships, do they have this generation gap problem?
Yeah, I would agree. What you've called, that's nicely put, omnipresent differences, it is a hallmark, I would say, of every generation gap. And but when it comes to mothers and daughters, or even mothers and sons, it doesn't have to damage the relationship or cause it to break down. I mean, it can, but it doesn't have to, because it can also, because it's a relationship that goes back such a long time. So it's a relationship that can be enriching also, even in spite of the differences. It can be enriching rather than obstructing. It can help us to grow, really, just an understanding of the differences. Um, while if you're talking about the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship, I mean, it can be actually much more problematic, because it isn't as seamless and organic a relationship as the mother-daughter relationship can be. It doesn't just that it doesn't have ties that go back, to the daughter-in-law's childhood. It's a tie that's forged as adults, and as a result, the differences, I think, can work towards damaging that relationship more than in the case of. I mean, none of these are absolutes, but commonly, I would say this is how it could work out.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So, I mean, both parties can try to work out well. We'll have to wait and watch. So, from a typical Bengali environment, your novel stretches furlongs to capture India. So, the lives of the Chatterjees, of Shohini, of Omar, I feel they portray the unmasked and unclothed prototypes of the diverse Indian culture. I mean, the depiction is blunt, it hits hard, but my question would be: who are they to you personally?
Must I answer that? No. Yeah, but but the book is pretty much about about that. It's about this disjunct, I would say, between our social outer selves and what we choose to present to the world. So it's. I don't think I was consciously trying to showcase, this what you said, the diverse Indian culture. But yes, it's about people. It's about characters in fiction, in real life, that have interested me. I don't think any of them that you've mentioned, like Shohini, Omar, and none of them represent any one person to me, but they are all amalgamations of different people I've known, read about, or even watched in movies, perhaps. So, so also in Mrs. C remembers, and in life too, the roles that we play in real life, the roles that the characters play in this novel, they are the, again, the mask factor, basically. They are the masks, the various masks that we wear in our relationships with each other, whether it's as a friend or a lover, partner, as a parent or a child, these are roles that we are performing. It is, I mean, life is performative. So we have our notions, we have our notions of how each relationship is supposed to pan out based on our own personal life experiences, our childhoods. And I think that makes that sort of, in some ways, maybe that makes us less spontaneous than we should otherwise be. And I think that's what I've really tried to capture in this novel, in the context of the characters of this book. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. So yeah, that's I can say that's a total wrap up of the Indian culture. I mean, we have a lot of portrayals about them in a lot of people. Yeah, they also connect to our lives also. I mean, the readers also. So as we are already talking about your novel, so going by the title, Mrs. C remembers. I'm curious as to what she actually remembers, like you all have already told us. So, if you could please, read to us a small extract from your novel.
Oops, I forgot. I mean, I don't have the book with me. I'm so sorry. I haven't
Uh,
kept it here. Would you like to? Or I can quickly go and get it. But I haven't marked out. Sorry, I just forgot about. I know you had told me to find a section to read out. I completely slipped my mind.
it's okay,
Sorry.
ma'am. We have time, so it would be
Yeah,
lovely.
maybe we can just finish, and then if there's, I mean, I can get something. You can ask me your next
Okay,
question.
ma'am. Okay,
Yeah.
so actually, I have just one last question left.
Okay.
So that would be the concluding formal questions for the session. So that in the tough times as this one, the family system and values, they have come back to the foreplay. So, but if the family is like the C family, would times become even tougher? I mean, would there be no problems at all, or would a period like this rekindle the detached bonds?
Uh, that's a hard question. I mean, I don't quite have the answer to it. I don't think that being in a family of a certain kind, that doesn't really determine how it pans out in tough times. It's like remembering that first line of Anna Karenina, which is, I think, happy families are all happy in the same way, but every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way, or something like that. So yeah, who knows about this family? And also, since this discussion is called the mass factor, so I would have to say that it's it's not necessary that, when we are in a family situation, it's not like we're taking off those masks. We are probably wearing a different mask at that time. So who knows? I mean, I don't think, I mean, I have the answer to that. But yeah, but since I know we have time, right? So since we are sort of coming towards the end, I'd like to go off on a slight tangent, because from the time that I kind of I was told the title of this session being the mass factor, and I've just been remembering this really very favorite poem of mine. It's a very simple, small, short poem. It's called Masks, and it's by Shel Silverstein, and I've actually got the book with me here. It's a children's book, but the poem it's really very sad and heartbreaking, and it's really short. So I'm going to just quickly read it out. It's just a few lines. So it's called Masks. Or you can't really see. There's an illustration because it's a children's book, so it's got this illustration also. The poem is Masks. She had blue skin, and so did he. He kept it hid, and so did she. They searched for blue their whole life through, then passed right by and never knew. And so I really love this poem. I know it might wonder sometimes what it's doing in a children's book, because it's sort of got so many layers to it. I think it's just about how we might be missing out, how stupid we are because we feel this need to pretend to wear masks, and it's just got to do with being, I suppose, insecure or fearing rejection. So we have this need to hide, to sort of wear masks, but as a result, as this poem says, perhaps we are missing out on some bigger experiences, and perhaps we could be happier unmasked if only we knew how. So so the whole idea of the mask, I mean, it's very evocative, and like even I was just trying to think of other masks, like the Joker and I think it's And I think over the years, the figure of the Joker has become more almost terrifying than funny. It's all those Batman books and movies, and that smile carved on the face of on the Joker's face, that, like, you know, kind of red and bloody. So yeah, that it's all about the masks we wear.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So, let us, wait for
Oh,
you.
okay. Yeah,
Uh,
you're going to give me
yeah,
2 minutes to run and get my book from the other room.
yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Yeah.
So here we have with us Himanjali Sankar, and she is here. She will be with us back with her book Mrs. C Remembers, that investigates, the politics of Indian families, where loss of memory becomes an easy tool. So it's all about her novel, and she asks through it what happens when a woman is boxed into a traditional role, and but then she starts forgetting all about it. So while we are at it, let's wait for her to get her book so that we can have, a glimpse into the well-crafted characters of this, I can say, mini Chatterjee universe. So yeah, let's please bear with us. Let's give her a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm back. But tell me which pages. Where would you like me to read from? Um,
Ma'am,
okay.
it's absolutely your discretion. I mean, we would love to have maybe a glimpse of the characters, like I thought
Yeah.
it would be.
Um, oh no, I think I'm sorry. I have to sort of. You can continue. You can ask me any questions also in the meantime if you like. Okay, I think I'll just read out the first few pages because
Yes, ma'am.
yeah,
That
because
would be a
that
good
is the,
introduction. Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is from Mrs. Chatterjee's perspective, and the book is divided into, like, it's an alternating chapters.
Yes.
So it's not that I have never imagined my mother-in-law's death. The important role I will have to play in all the rituals that follow. Quiet, dignified. I do not want to cry because I have never been the sort of person to cry in public. Even when my own parents passed away, my father 10 years back and my mother more recently, I only cried when I was alone in the bathroom. I've never cried in front of my husband either. Only once in front of my daughter, but I quickly ran to the bathroom because loss of control is so very humiliating, even if in the presence of those one loves most. My husband does not know how intensely I dislike his mother or all the things she has said or done to me. When I was a newlywed, I did try to confide in him once. I tried to do it indirectly, as if she had said something funny about my family, not malicious as it really was. I no longer recollect her reason for ridicule on that occasion. There has been such a stream of steady insults in the course of the last 35 years that it is difficult to remember the exact words, the when, and the wherefore. This time it possibly had to do with my father coming from the gutters and my mother marrying him because she was not beautiful enough to find a really good catch from her own socio-economic background. But that's true, isn't it? My husband had said when I told him what his mother had told me. And then and there, I decided never to complain about his mother to him or to anyone else for that matter. He is too intelligent to not know if I'm complaining, even if I couch it in nice words. I appreciate the fact that I'm married to a good looking, intelligent man whom I love with all my heart and who loves me equally well in return. Why should I ruin what we have by bringing his mother into our bedroom? Okay, I'm going to just skip a bit and there's this little bit, yeah, about the mother in law and her. Should I read a little more?
Yes, ma'am. Not a problem.
Yeah. There was this bit which I personally like, which I'm trying to remember. Yeah. So This is about the mother-in-law coming into the room when Mrs. C is just okay. I'm going to read it. So I was in my bedroom in the afternoon just recently, resting and reading the newspaper. The curtains were drawn. The bedroom door was shut. Murders, rapes, looting in Gujarat. This is, I think, 2002. It's set in. Muslims were being massacred. When I mention it to my husband, he says that the Godhra train burning has to be avenged by the Hindus. Not that he believes in any religious rubbish, but Gujarat has a chief minister who doesn't suck up to the minorities like the Congress clowns. It was all right to sometimes show the minorities who was boss. My husband knows about these things. He particularly likes to make fun of the Congress. My father was a member of the party, without meaning any harm, of course. So I'm reading all these horrific reports of atrocities when my door is suddenly flung open and she's standing there, her skin hanging in wrinkled folds from her face and arms, her matchstick legs and fat upper body lending her a grotesque appearance. I don't know why the nurse wasn't with her and how she was walking at all. So this is there, and then I'll just read one more paragraph. So my mother-in-law's face kept floating in front of me as I drifted off into an uneasy sleep. I dreamed she was wielding a trishul, blood dripping from it, a red tika slashed on her forehead, and her wispy grey hair, oily and thin, open and flowing. Her widow white sari and the wrinkled loose folds of skin under her forearms shook and quivered as she dug the trishul into the pregnant belly of a girl in a salwar kameez who folded her arms and begged for mercy. But my mother-in-law, her eyes bloodshot and venomous, continued to stab her stomach with the trishul like it was a slab of meat. Okay, I think it's getting a bit sort of. I had forgotten how that it was this bloodthirsty, so I think I'll stop. Yeah.
No, ma'am, it's absolutely fine. As long as I know the audience has their interest piqued. So, absolutely, we would love that. So, yeah, that is how. So, with this, I mean, with this lovely book reading, obviously, we will conclude our today's session. So, at Mask Factor, we discuss new perspectives in each episode. And thanks a lot, Himanjali, ma'am. Thank you for this very sweet conversation and this very lovely book reading, and also for your time with us this evening. So, to everyone, let me put a reminder. Tell Me Your Story calls for submissions on Mask, and registrations are open for the writing program season 2 with the story prompt of Women's Silence, which is yet another form of Mask. Till then, let us all try to stay well, stay safe, and though we are distanced, let us stay together. Good night.
Thank you, Ankita. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.